Welcome, dear friends. Please sit down. Take a moment to settle your breath. Feel the stillness around you, and more importantly, feel the stillness within you. We often rush through life, searching outside for meaning, yet all the while, the doorway to true understanding lies within. Today, let us go on a gentle journey together. A journey not across continents, but into the world of Buddhist symbols, each one a mirror, a reminder, a guidepost on this path of awakening. You may have seen these symbols many times: a lotus, a wheel, a pair of golden fishes, a bell, or perhaps the majestic Bodhi tree. But do we pause to reflect on their deeper meanings? Do we allow their silent wisdom to touch our hearts? These symbols are not just art or decoration. They are living teachings. They are like the breeze that gently shakes the leaves, guiding our attention inward, back to what matters. Let me begin with the most well-known of them all, the lotus flower. It is beautiful, isn't it? But its beauty is not just in the bloom. It is in its story. A lotus begins in the mud, the darkest part of the pond. And from that muddy water, it rises unsoiled, untouched, blooming in the light. Just like us, we all have muddy moments. Pain, fear, loss, anger, shame. And yet, the potential to rise, to awaken, lives within us. The lotus teaches us that no matter where we begin, enlightenment is possible. We do not need to be perfect. We need to be willing. Willing to grow, to persevere, to open. I once met a woman who had lost everything: her family, her home, her health. She came to the temple broken, her heart heavy with grief. And I showed her the lotus. I told her, "Your suffering is not your prison. It is your path." She meditated with the lotus every day. She wept beside it. And slowly she began to bloom again. Not because her pain vanished, but because she learned to hold it with gentleness. That is the power of awakening. That is the lesson of the lotus. Now, let us look at the Dharma Wheel, or Dharma Chakra. It is a circle with 8 spokes. 8 spokes, representing the noble Eightfold path, the Buddha's guidance for a life of wisdom, ethics, and mental discipline. Why a wheel? Because the Dharma is not static. It moves, it rolls forward through time, just like our own journey. We are not meant to stay still in ignorance. The teachings are alive, they evolve within us. And the spokes? Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. These are not commandments. These are practices. Lighthouses to guide our ship across the stormy ocean of life. Years ago, a young man came to me, angry at the world. He said, "Why is there so much injustice?" I told him about the Dharma Wheel. I said, "Turn inward. Take up one spoke. Begin with right speech. Speak only what is true, kind, and necessary. Let your words be your practice." He came back a year later. He was calmer, softer. He said, "I still see injustice, but now I understand that the world changes one voice, one heart at a time. That is the turning of the wheel, not grand gestures, but mindful choices." Let's turn now to the endless. Not a beautiful interwoven pattern with no beginning and no end. It symbolizes the interdependence of all things: karma, cause and effect, the web of life. Nothing arises alone. Everything is connected. Sometimes we feel isolated, don't we? Alone in our suffering, separate from joy. But the knot teaches us otherwise. Every action we take ripples outward. Every thought, every word, every deed, it matters. A simple story. I once gave a smile to a stranger who looked weary. He later told me that smile stopped him from doing something unthinkable. That one smile became a thread in his healing. We must never underestimate the power of compassion. The knot reminds us, you are not alone. Your joy affects others. So does your pain. That is why we must walk gently, love deeply, forgive often. All things are connected. Now, the golden fishes. Two graceful beings swimming freely in water. They represent happiness, fertility, and spiritual liberation. But more than that, they remind us to swim through life without fear. Fish do not fear drowning. They are at home in the water, just as we can be at home in the present moment. I knew a boy who struggled with anxiety. He was always afraid of failing, of disappointing others, of not being enough. I gave him a painting of the golden fishes and said, "Let them teach you. Let go of your fear of the future. Swim in the now." He began to meditate. He learned to breathe, to stay, to trust. And slowly, the tides of fear began to calm. This is what happens when we embrace the freedom already within us. We don't have to escape our lives. We need to understand them. Let me speak now of the conch shell, used in ancient times to call monks together, to signal the beginning of sacred teachings. It symbolizes the spread of the Dharma, the truth. That echoes through time, but in a deeper way, the conch asks you, are you listening? Not with just your ears, but your heart? Are you listening to the call of your own awakening? The Buddha's teachings are not just ancient words. They are alive when we hear them in our suffering, our joy, our silence. A young mother once asked me, "How do I teach my child the Dharma?" I gave her a small conch and said, "Be the teaching. Your patience, your kindness, your presence. These are the teachings your child will hear loudest." That is the sound of the conch. Not always loud, but always true. And then we have the parasol, a symbol of protection. Not just from the sun, but from negative energies, from suffering, from the poisons of the mind, greed, hatred, and ignorance. The parasol reminds us to seek shelter, not in things or people, but in wisdom, mindfulness, and compassion. I often ask, where do you seek refuge? The true refuge is in your practice. In knowing that no matter the storm, you have an inner shelter. A calm, awake presence that cannot be shaken. Once during a terrible flood in our village, people lost homes and possessions. But one elder monk sat quietly, chanting under a tree. I asked him, "Why are you not afraid?" He smiled and said, "The true refuge is not outside, it is in here," as he touched his heart. That is the parasol. Shelter within, let us also not forget the Bodhi tree under which the Buddha attained enlightenment. It is not just a tree. It is a living symbol of awakening, rooted in stillness and reaching toward the sky. We all have our Bodhi tree, a place within where awakening is possible. A woman came to our monastery to meditate under the Bodhi tree. Every morning, rain or shine. She said, "This tree reminds me to keep going, to sit, to breathe, to trust." And eventually, she too found peace. Not because her life changed, but because she did. Dear friends, all these symbols are mirrors. They reflect who we are and who we can become. They are not to be worshipped, but to be lived. So I invite you to look again. The next time you see a lotus, ask yourself, am I growing from my mud? The next time you see the Dharma Wheel, ask, am I walking the path? When you see the endless knot, ask, am I choosing compassion? When you see the fishes, ask, am I swimming free? When you hear the conch, ask, am I listening deeply? When you see the parasol, ask, where is my true shelter? And when you see the Bodhi tree, ask, am I willing to awaken? This is how we practice, not in temples alone, but in our everyday lives. These symbols are not ancient relics. They are doors to the present moment. Let them speak to you. Let them awaken you. I thank you, from the depth of my being, for walking this path, for seeking wisdom, for showing up again and again. And before we end, if this journey has touched your heart even a little, I kindly invite you to support our community of seekers by subscribing to our YouTube channel, Buddha's Wisdom. Every subscription, every comment, every shared video helps spread the Dharma and brings light to someone else's path. Let us continue this journey together, one breath, one symbol, one mindful step at a time. May you be well. May you be peaceful. May you awaken